Attention. Attention in the room. Welcome to everybody who is here today. Fans who have traveled across the country, around the world, and down the street. Thank you for coming to the psychOdelphia Convention 2025. My name is Steve. You may know me by my height. Or you may know me by a television show I once worked on and continue to work on today. As we begin, I want you to prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for an onslaught of entertainment. Prepare yourself for technical errors and things we would like scrubbed from the internet because we feel like we may have insulted our own friends. We didn't mean to say that meanly. But most importantly, I need to tell you this. The men's room on the 4th floor, at the first sink, the soap dispenser does not work. So move 2 sinks over. You can get soap there, although it's hard to get your hand to activate the water. So then step 2 sinks back and rinse your hands off. Also, there is a plastic bag over one of the urinals. Do not use that one. Andy Berman learned this the hard way this morning. And now, if you're ready for a day of entertainment, technical mistakes, and small bathroom errors that can be cleaned up, this is psychOdelphia 2025. Listen for the first clue of what's about to happen. The greatest tap dancer in the entire Keystone State. Please put your hands together and bring the lights up for the man who has entertained us with the greatest tap dancing in the history of the psychOdelphia Convention. You're expecting somebody else? You just got woodied! The greatest dancer! He worked on that routine 6 weeks ago. We rented out this auditorium for him to practice that. Unfortunately, the lights somehow went out right when it began. But your moves were incredible. Thank you. Let's have the biggest hand we can for Curt right now. For my next number, I'm going to take off the robe. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What an incredible start to the day. Look at this, this is something. All right, we have a lot planned for you guys. A lot of this stuff, we did one of these last year in the great city of Chicago. We wanted to bring one to the East Coast, so here we are in the Keystone State. We're so excited for everybody who's come here. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I just want to tell you that at the core of this event, and what made our show stay on the air for 8 seasons, 3 movies, a 4th movie written, what made us stay on the air is all of you. And so we want to take a different approach to these psych cons, as we call them. So much of what you see, the merchandise, the crews here, these are psychos. This is fan-driven. We are the guests, you are our hosts, and we're here to give you guys a great weekend. And I just want you to know, if you're here for the volleyball tournament, you're on the wrong floor. The Power Convention, this will be uplifting, but uplifting in a different way, if you're here for that. And before we start, I just want to thank the people that are here today, and I want to say this right, so I'm going to read off the card. Candace, Audrey, Molly, Katie, everyone at the PCC, PAC for graphics, trivia, photo booths, and displays. Lauren, who's on social media. Kendra did schedules and customer service, Bridget and Vicky for merch designs, some of the most incredible shirts that I've seen. Jen is on photography, Kimberly is the managing crew, and the Grimm family, who sent us the blueberry that I think is parked out in front of the hotel. We're trying not to get rain on the blueberry, so if you see it, it'll be dry tomorrow. But I think the rain is about to end. And of course, anybody else that I'm accidentally leaving out, I apologize in advance. We got a ton of stuff happening. Tonight's event is either going to be one of the greatest things that's ever happened in this ballroom, or a disaster on a level that you could never imagine. But I think I've done enough talking to start. Do you want to meet a couple people that you might be familiar with? There's another dancer in the building. He's not quite as renowned as Curt Fuller, but you may know him from his time on Broadway or in a Corn Pops commercial. Ladies and gentlemen, Dule Hill. And another guy who was in the car as this bit began and is now here, right? Who is now here. You may know him from his days living in San Antonio, Texas. You may know him from the time he worked at the Whataburger in San Antonio, Texas. And you may also know him from the stage right there, James Roday Rodriguez.
There it is. What's happening? What's happening? Yes. Let's turn out. psychOdelphia. Here we go. You guys look good. I mean that because it's surprisingly well lit in here. We can see all of it. That's right. There you are. Are you already having a good time this weekend? We put together some surprises, some twists, some turns. And when I say we, I don't actually mean Dule and I. We're the whole team of people that love you all and have been very thoughtful in putting together this weekend. Not to say that Chicago didn't kick all the ass that it could have possibly kicked. But we have a sneaking suspicion that Philadelphia is going to kick a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we look forward to spending this weekend with you. We're going to have a good time. Enjoy yourselves. Look forward to catching up later. But in the meantime, suck it!
Philadelphia! we're gonna be mingling with you guys, coming out there. We're gonna sort of host and
there's a lot of hosting going on, a lot of hostery, we might call it.
We're gonna be doing bits. We're gonna be doing full-on bits. We're gonna be doing tiny bits.
I may fall down again. Watch close. It might happen.
But for now, a man who needs no introduction because he was already essentially introduced, and you know him. But we're gonna bring back Steve Franks and start our first panel, and he's gonna tell you all about it. Bring out the special guests.
Correct. Our first panel is Our Love of the 80s and the Sexy Mystique.
Steve Franks again!
Oh my God, you guys. There is a very famous rock star in the back here. Which chair do I get to sit in?
Well, you can choose whichever one you want.
Okay, so...
Why don't you let the audience pick?
Okay, which one do you think? This one? No. This one? This one? Why this one, though? I don't understand. Okay, what about this one? Yeah, put me on the end.
That's the one.
Andy, who's in this panel? Who is in this panel?
You're saying or we're saying? Are these surprises?
We're just saying this right now. I think we're going to bring them out again. Well, I think this is right, Our Love of the 80s and the Sexy Mystique of Curt Smith.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man who convinced everybody that they all want to rule the world, Curt Smith. Now, there was a weird thing where they voted on which chair I should sit in. I'm over here.
Furthest away from me.
Okay, how about Curt over here? Does this look good? All right, this is you. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the executive producer of a show called Psych. It's Chris Hensey. All right, hold on. Now, there's only 2 chairs left. This one or this one? Okay, all right, Chris, you're here. Okay, and then our last guest, you may have met him 1.5 minutes ago. His hair is in a strange bun on top of his head, which I had not seen until this very moment. I'm processing it, you can process it too. He's the most handsome man that, well, not on this stage, because Curt's up here. He's the most handsome man with his hair in a bun at the moment on the top of his head. Ladies and gentlemen, James Roday Rodriguez. Has everybody clocked the pillow thing that James does? James, where does that come from?
You can put anything on this. You can set your laptop here. You can set a bowl of whatever you're eating while you watch television. Andy Berman fits here.
Andy, can you come out for a second? Is Andy Berman back there? Andy, we need to test something right away. We'll get Andy.
Berman, don't be shy.
Here he is. Andy, we want to know if you fit on that pillow with James.
Sit right here. Right in here.
All right,
so let's get this thing going.
Let's get going, guys.
At one point, James will drink water, and I will still be talking, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Berman. All right, this is a panel when we were making the schedule, we were trying to figure out, well, we know that everybody lines up and does questions, right? There's microphones and all that, they're coming over there. So if you have questions, but we decided we wanted to start with a panel about the 80s, because so much of what we do is a reference back to what I think is the greatest decade.
It's a fine decade. We know that some of you might not have been around back then, so you just have to take our words for it, but it felt really different.
back then.
It did, and I believe that the 80s actually only began like in 1983. The first 3 years of the 80s are still the 70s.
There was some rollover.
And it gets into full swing about 88, and then they sort of started to turn into something different towards the end. So there's a very short period of time. But for us, James and I bonded over these references. And the references are to shows in the 80s. And I don't understand that, because James was like almost a baby in the 80s. And how, James, does so much of your pop culture reference come from that decade when you were so young and impressionable?
I think it's because, my parents weren't sure what to do with me as a person. I think they made a kid and were like, oh shit, why did we do this? We'll just pop them in front of the television and everything will kind of take care of itself. So I was like the aliens and explorers. See what I did there, you guys? I kind of learned everything from watching, sitcoms and whatever movies came on after that. And I spent a lot of time in the cinema as well. So yeah, I would say, I was 6 years old in '82 when American Werewolf in London came along, and that kind of set me on a nice track. Yeah, if you have a 6-year-old, definitely show them American Werewolf in London, and they can turn out just like me. But yeah, I think a lot of my pop culture vocabulary was built by watching television and movies, and I started doing that at a very early age. And I agree with you. Like as we got into the '80s, there was a real surge. We went from like the golden age of cinema in the '70s to just pure wonderful trash in the '80s, and the stakes were so much lower. You could just go to the movies and get some dots and watch Mark Harmon instead of having to pay attention to the conversation or the French Connection. Yeah.
It was an amazing time. I actually saw American Werewolf in London. This is how I saw it. My dad was an LAPD officer. Inspiration for the character Henry Spencer. Wanted me to become a cop. And if you're a cop, you also work 3 different jobs on the side. So he would work security at a bank. He worked security on movie sets. That's how this happened for me. And he also worked security at a place called the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. And the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel is a haunted hotel, 100% haunted. I'm not going to take any arguments that it's not. And he would allow me at 10, 11 years old to go into the city and bring one of my friends, and we would wander Hollywood Boulevard and go see movies. And I saw American Werewolf in London on one of those days, and I'm so grateful for it. And what I wanted to do at the top of this is, my dad is having a bit of a moment right now, and I think he would be really cheered up if I could get everybody here just to say, hey Bert, that would be amazing. And so if everybody's okay, the word is Bert, preceded by hey. Hey, then Bert. You can do a pause if you like, but try to do what everyone else is doing. And if you want to add something then we can do a second take. But let's try it right here. This is for my dad. If you could just say, "Hey, Bert," that would be great. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Hey, Bert! He's gonna love that. That's gonna be amazing. Thank you so much.
Now, as far as those of us on stage, only one of us that I'm aware of was selling millions and millions of records and traveling the world as an international rock star during the 80s. So I think it's about time we heard from Chris Hinton! Curt, just give us sort of a baseline dissertation of what it was like to be you in the 80s. Keep it brief.
Yeah. What was it like to be me? I was too busy being me. unlike you, I miss all your references because I was actually, primarily on the road or in the studio. So I'm not watching any of these things because I was so busy. And I gotta say, when it's so funny when you talk about, your love of that era, and I'm like, oh God, it was painful for me. I was just non-stop on the road doing interviews, having to talk to people, and being a sort of natural introvert, I realized it wasn't my favorite thing to do. But
it was also your dangling period, so you were carrying a lot of extra weight.
I had the sort of long braids at the time, which I guess you're attempting.
This is for you, man. This is for you. I know you feel more comfortable when there's a long-haired person on stage, so I'm doing the best I can here.
I have to say that, about 3 weeks ago when I was in New York and I took James to dinner.
It's very sweet.
And first thing I walked in, I was like, what is that?
I asked for it, you guys. I had an even shorter, dumber version of this on top of my head, and I thought I could just walk into dinner like it was no big deal. That was firmly put in my place. All right. So I know that you guys have tons of questions and we want to answer them, but do you have a singular moment that you think about in the 80s in terms of Tears for Fears, where you're like, that was it, I knew after that nothing was ever going to be the same again?
It was weird for us because we started, in '82 in Europe, really, and our first album, The Hurting, was kind of big everywhere in Europe, but not necessarily in America. So we hadn't really broken through in America yet. I think apart from New York, LA, some major cities, certainly college radio and stuff. So we weren't really known in America until Songs from the Big Chair, which was... Suddenly we became bigger. So my sort of main memory, because we never played in the States, and now, by the way, I've lived here I'm an American citizen, I've lived here for 35 years now. But we were...
You knew Brexit was coming, so...
And now look what I've let myself in for. I remember the first show we played in America, and because I think 2 days before we were filming in Canada the Head Over Heels video. And while we were there, Everybody Wants to Rule the World went to #1 in America, and we had yet to play our first show. And we were booked on a club tour because no one knew how well the band was going to do and the album. So we played a venue in Hartford, Connecticut, a club for 1,000 people. It was our first show, which was kind of nuts. And then it just slowly, the venues changed as we went across America until we got to the West Coast. Then we went off to Japan and Australia and came back and then absorbed big arenas. So it was strange. It was a strange time. And I don't remember that much of it because, like I say, most of the time you're doing interviews or suddenly the pressure on you is so much greater that it actually doesn't become that enjoyable. So by the end of it, I was like, get me the hell out of here. I can't do this anymore.
Plus you were in charge of the monkey from the Head Over Heels video.
I was. Zippy, who actually did come on stage with us.
Yes!
On roller skates, I hasten to add, at Radio City Music Hall, we played 4 shows at Radio City, and Zippy came down to one. And he came on during Head Over Heels and roller skated across the stage. So at least we didn't lose our sense of humor. There is that.
Take that, Lady Gaga. Has you got anything to add before we open it up?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I'll do the shameless plug. I had the pleasure of seeing Tears for Fears just a few weeks ago in Las Vegas. And Curt was nice enough to have us and give us some great seats. And now that you guys are all friends with Curt, I encourage you to buy tickets and go see them if you can. They're going back to Vegas later this year in a little mini residency thing. I don't know if that's announced or official or whatever, but
it's official-ish, I mean, if you say, Chris, we're doing it, then we're doing
Okay,
it.
perfect. I'm now the tour manager for Shafir's. Anyway, it was an incredible show, and you guys have not lost a step. And just the energy in that room, and the excitement, and of course the music that just will make everybody remember where they were when they first heard it, and the new music, which is just as incredible. So anyway, if anybody gets a chance, I would jump on it. It's just really special, and it's special for us growing up in the 80s and living with it. I was in high school in 1984-ish, and it was, this has been a little mini dream to get to know Curt and have an appreciation.
Also, we should mention that the playing live bit was how I got roped into doing this nonsense.
That's actually the next question that we have is like, how did this happen? The two of you.
Exactly.
The bromance?
Yeah. The other bromance.
Well, we were playing a show at the World in Los Angeles, and somehow, obviously security was lax. Somehow James managed to get to the dressing room. Still don't know to this day how, but told me about this show he was on. I preface this by saying that I had a manager at the time who was a huge Psych fan. I actually hadn't seen the show. Okay, so I will admit that.
Because you're dick.
Because, I'm not going to go into that.
It's because you hate joy.
I do, and because I don't like karaoke either, so obviously, my heart is dead. So James came back and he was like, you gotta come on the show, we have to have you on the show. And basically he wouldn't take no for an answer. It's the only way I could get him out of the dressing room. So I agreed to do it, went up to Canada to film the first one. Little, unbeknownst to me that all they were gonna do is abuse me. Which has become the running theme, I believe. I think I've been abused quite a bit on this show. And, but I have to say, in all seriousness, when you get there, this is kind of like a family. And the way you see them is the way they are, off of stage and off of the TV show. So they basically brought me into the family, and then, once you're in, there's no getting out. And as soon as you, it's kind of like the mafia, as soon as you think you're out, they just reel you back in. And I thought I was out until recently, and they're like, we're doing this thing called psychOdelphia, you're coming. There was no, would you be kind enough to, you're going to be there. So that's kind of how I got roped in.
Look, we all have our kink, and Curt enjoys being told what to do. So I learned that early on. I used it to my advantage. I was not going to throw away my shot. Luckily, it all worked out. Sometimes it's awesome to meet your heroes because they can be everything you want them to be.
Questions, man. Let's open it up to the questions, and then we'll see if we have more. And by the way, make sure that somebody asks Chris Hensey a question, or we're going to hear about it all night. And
I'm used to it. You can ignore me. It's fine.
And the question can't be, why are you here, Chris?
Steve feeling loose early. Yes.
Hi, my name's Will. My question's for Hensey.
That's my cousin Will.
It really isn't for you, man. I'm sorry. Yeah, to quote Sean, I love Curt Smith. Curt, what was your favorite moment working on Psych?
It wasn't actually part of the working. It was outside of work, I would say, my favorite moment. And I will tell you the story of I may have told it before. Actually, I don't think I have in interviews, to be honest. But as I mentioned, these people have this like love of karaoke for some peculiar reason. So they take me out to a karaoke night in Vancouver. And for some reason we decided, wouldn't it be hilarious if I got up and did a karaoke of Everybody Wants to Rule the World? So they convinced me to do this. And I did indeed get up and sing my own song in a karaoke bar in Vancouver, and no one batted an eyelid. Not a single person there knew who I was. Not a single person there paid attention. And that was actually probably the joy of it, to be honest.
And now you know how I feel all the time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great question, Will. Great question. All right, do we go to this side? We go to this side over here?
Hi, my name is Chloe, and Curt, it is such an honor to have you here. I'm a huge fan of Tears for Fears. Tears for Fears is what got me into psych. Your music has changed my life for the better. My question is, what are your thoughts on how your music continues on to each new generation, carrying the same relevance that it did 20, 30, 40 years ago?
Good question, and it's something that, you know, I suppose in all seriousness, I've realized recently, and I guess one of the joys of, it's weird looking at myself. I look a lot more handsome in that, but, you know. When we play live now, our audience does vary between, you know, the ages of, I mean, I've had like 9-year-olds in the front singing lyrics to our songs as we're playing them. And the downside of, I think, streaming services is that they don't pay us. Or at least they pay us a pittance. The upside is it actually opens our music up to tons of different generations because it's readily available. And so we do find that our audience now does range from a very young age to people my age and older, which is fantastic for us because we're garnering a new audience each time we play. And I think it's down to the fact that, I guess if you make music that has some meaning, like it meant, like The Hurting meant a lot to us when we were 19, 20, 21. So 19, 20, 21-year-olds are going to relate to it because we're talking about the things they're going through. And I think if you do put some effort into lyrics and the depth of your music, then people of generations to come who are going through the same things you went through at that time will relate to them too. That's a bit of a serious answer, I know, in this setting, but that would be the truth of it.
Over here.
All right, so first of all, last year, who else was here for Chicago site? Amazing. Steve actually came out at the opening the rooftop bar and hung out with us for a little while with Corbin. That was pretty awesome. Thanks, Steve, for that memory. My question for Chris, could you scoot back a little bit so I can ask Curt?
Let me go over here.
You guys, I found 2 new writers for whatever new show we're putting together so far. Get your names and numbers and agents' names and all that stuff.
So hopefully we can do this again next year because every year now we're making this a habit. It's my wife's birthday. So we did it last year for my wife's birthday. We're doing it again this year for my wife's birthday. And Curt, I don't know how you feel about doing a free show for about 2,000 people here, but would you be kind enough to sing happy birthday to my wife, Mandy?
But you would have to join in, though.
Absolutely. We can help. Absolutely.
Okay.
Mandy, would you mind standing up for everybody?
What was your wife's name again, sorry?
Mandy.
Wait, why are we singing Happy Birthday and not Mandy by Barry Manilow?
There are 2 reasons. One, I know Happy Birthday to Mandy. I do not know.
All my life. Come on. I think I would.
Not everything needs to catch on. Not every book has to catch fire.
I think no trigger out here for those words. So let's just go with your plan.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mandy. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Mandy, you came, you gave without taking, but I sent you away. Oh, Mandy, will you kiss me and stop me from shaking?
That's all I know.
This is what I mean about karaoke.
Also, why he's never invited to your concerts.
Hi guys, my name's Amanda, and Curt, you're my second favorite performer from England.
I thought she was going to say Tears
Oh,
for
now we
Fears.
need to know.
Oh, that was terrifying.
Frank Turner's my favorite, sorry.
Well, Tim Robinson would agree with you there, I'm guessing.
I know he would. My question's for Chris. So, Chris, would you do me a favor and please share a Tim Robinson story with me?
Wow. Share a Tim Robinson story. What's my best Tim story?
Give us 13 minutes. We'll be back. We'll take a small break, and Curt Smith will now sing the rest of Mandy by Marriott.
I'm not preloaded with Tim Robinson stories. He's the greatest guy ever. He's the sweetest man. There's so many memories that we all have of Tim dancing and singing and being sweet and funny and breaking his collarbone by taking a bike spill in Vancouver, which caused us to have to shift some stuff around. And I have nothing specific, but I have 1,000 memories over the last 20 years of all these guys, and particularly Tim, as he's so special to all of us. That's what I got for you today.
That's good. And you'll like it. All right. Over there.
Hi there. My name's Barb. Psych is wonderful. I think everyone agrees that if you feel like it's speaking to you in a way. And Curt, you are awesome. I would just like to know, though, who on Psych is the fan of Morrissey / the Smiths?
That's probably me, and then it's like Steve's 1 and 1A, I would say. The Smiths were huge for me in middle school. I discovered them as a 7th grader, which is when I started wearing Doc Martens. And I was a little behind the curve because, I was a little bit on the young side and they had already sort of become the Smiths. It just took me a second to catch up. But then when I discovered them, I went in hard. And pretty soon after that is when Morrissey went solo. So I felt like I started his solo journey with him in real time. Just the two of us. I wrote Suede Head. I don't like to say that a lot. That time in my life was dominated by new wave music out of England primarily. And when I met Steve, he's the guy that can go track by track. He can tell you the name of the album, every track, and the order that they were on. He's an encyclopedia, so I would say it's both of us.
I would say so too. And Chris as well.
Yeah, 1984, I saw Morrissey at San Diego State Amphitheater. Meet His Murder was a big influence for me early on. I mean, I think we are all right there.
NZ, also in the hot tub.
1C.
Love it.
One of the things that James and I bonded on early is we used to play this game on set where we'd have someone randomly name an album from the 80s, and we had to go back and forth and name a track from that record until one of us got stumped.
Which was always me.
And we would get 7, 8 songs deep on a lot of these, on most of them. We can't do that anymore, but...
We also introduced Dule Hill to almost all of this music, by the way. I don't know if he's happy about that, but I'm pretty sure he learned that Morrissey was a person on site. So the other answer is that it wasn't Dule. That's the other answer.
All right, on this side now.
Hi, I'm Erin Galbraith from Oregon.
Hi, Erin. We all know Erin.
So good to see you in person for the first time. My question is for Curt. You have 2 very creative daughters, and I'm wondering how you nurtured that creativity.
Well, let them do what they want. That's pretty much it. One of whom is with me today, actually, because I couldn't come here on my own. And truth be known, that James actually gets on with my children better than he gets on with me. I don't think there's any. The only way you can nurture people in that sense is really to encourage them to follow their passion. That's pretty much it. So I have my younger daughter Wilder, who is here somewhere. She's an artist. She graduated in art from Kenyon, Ohio last year in studio art. So now she's in New York, building her artistic career. My eldest, Diva, is a musician, and you'll be hearing from her if you haven't already. There's actually a couple of tracks already on Spotify. But basically, there's no, if your kid has a passion, there's no point trying to stop them, because they're going to do it anyway, just to, because that's what they really feel strongly about. So I encourage my kids really to follow anything they're passionate about, because if you can end up having a career out of something you're passionate about, there's nothing better. I get to make music and actually make a living from it. How fucking great is that?
Shameless plug, check out David Smith on Spotify. If you need illustrations for a children's book, Wilder Smith also available. Thanks, Erin.
Hi, I'm Eliza from Kentucky. I had a question for all of you guys. So as we know, and we watched yesterday, James, you performed an iconic performance to Shout. If you couldn't have done Shout, what other song would you guys have liked to be in place?
It's a good question. It needed to be a duo. So the obvious choice was Tears for Fears, and then there's like a huge gap after that in terms of duos for me. So it probably would have been another Tears for Fears song. We just would have worked our way through the discography, honestly. But if someone put like a mandate on us, like, you can't do Tears for Fears, I think it's probably Phil Collins and Philip Bailey singing Easy Lover, no?
Well, I need to see that. Easy Lover. Now, Curt, I've got that picture in my head. It's not going away. It's not going away.
Now, Curt, this is not to burst your bubble at all, but actually, the first track we tried to get was a track called Pac-Man Fever, and we just couldn't clear the rights, and so.
As I always say, yes.
But we were lucky that we were able to clear that because we didn't have a plan after that. It was you or bust.
Final answer, Easy Lover.
Hello.
What's up?
Hello. Hi.
My name is Shelby and I'm from Texas.
Yeah.
My question is for James. Have you ever seen a mini Jules?
Have I ever seen a mini Jules?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yes.
I have, because I've seen video and a lot of photographs of Maggie Lawson when she was a child. And she looks almost exactly the same as she looks now. Her face was just way bigger. Same height.
Because right now I'm dressing as Jules.
And I was about to keep going. I feel like I'm looking at a mini Jules right now. You nailed it.
Well played.
Get out there and solve a murder. We need you on them streets. Thank you for dressing appropriately for the weekend. That's awesome.
Hi, my name is Kaylee. I'm from Sackett's Harbor. It's going to be really hard to follow that adorable little costume, but I'm not dressed up. But my question was about the episode when you wear the Apple Jacks t-shirt to tell Juliet that her soulmate will be wearing an Apple Jacks t-shirt. Are you a big fan of Apple Jacks in real life?
Look. I'm an artist. I'm a craftsman. I spent many years honing my craft, and as a result, sometimes I can make you believe that I like something that I've never even tried. I'm having a moment in real time in front of you all, and I don't think I've ever had an Applejack. But you all believed it. The shirt was green, you know, it worked. I know they're round, they're small and round.
They kind of taste like cinnamon, I think. Apple-y cinnamon kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
And they have little crunchy bits on them. It's like an extra thing. And here's the great thing. You don't need milk to enjoy Apple Jacks. They're just as good in a cup or in a snack. So you put them in a Ziploc baggie, a snack size or sandwich size. Take them with you. They work great.
Thank you for exposing me as a fraud.
Okay, hey James, before we do this next question, if the kid asks something to indicate that they're in a costume, I'm ready for this one. Acknowledge it right away.
Wait, is that a mini Superman Sam? Are my eyes telling me what I think they are? Look at you, dude. You're awesome. You got the whole beard. What's up?
Alright, so my name is Katie. I'm actually right from outside Philly. I lost my voice, so it's really hard. This question's for James. Is there a scene or a moment when filming Psych that's like most memorable for you?
For so many different reasons. Sometimes I was behind the camera, sometimes I was in front of the camera, but I think the one that I'll never forget as long as I live was in the second Psych movie. And this is, I'm going to help Chris out here since he was supposed to tell a story. It would have been the moment that Tim Amundsen, the bravest, most courageous bearded warrior that we know, walked to his wife, Marlo, in character at the end of the movie. It was a really big deal, and everybody was there for it. Everybody who's ever spent a day on Psych and lived in Vancouver showed up for that moment, so that he sort of felt the world's biggest parachute, which of course he didn't need. And he walked that bitch. You know what I'm saying? I'll never forget that.
Hi there. My name is Clarissa, and it's very nice to meet you all. I have a question for James. So, my family just flew out from our hometown, San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, go Spurs!
Yes, go Spurs! And so I wanted to ask, how did you get your start in acting as an aspiring actor? How did you get your start in acting while being from a place like San Antonio?
Well, here's the good news. I didn't know anybody. My dad was Air Force. My mom was a school teacher. I grew up in San Antonio. Yeah, go teachers. I did a lot of theater in high school. I went to New York to continue studying theater. So I think the biggest thing, with all due respect to San Antonio and the state of Texas, is that you probably need to get out. And go either east or west, you know, depending on what you feel like is going to be your jam. Keep studying, keep working, whether it's going to school or taking classes or whatever that is. Form a community, surround yourself with other artists. And the good news for all of us that did that is you never know who's sitting next to you in class or what they might end up doing or what you might end up doing. But if you form those relationships, they last. And you can grow together and you can help each other out. And yeah, that's how I did it.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Dan from Texas.
Yeehaw!
For those on the panel who are fans, where would you say that 80s rank in terms of the best decades of professional wrestling?
I'll take this.
Let's start with Curt. Curt, how do you feel? James,
What is professional wrestling?
What is professional wrestling?
It's another one of those like weird, quirky things that you people are into.
That's right. That's right. Us savages on this side of the pond.
That's when people pretend to throw themselves around the ring. And
that's right. All baby oiled up.
Oh, now I know why you like it.
Well, guilty as charged. 80s were interesting, weren't they? Because that was like, you know, kayfabe was not a thing really, and we didn't know if it was real or fake, and we would actually get into spirited debates, which if you think about it is maybe the most ridiculous thing that's ever happened in American culture, that there were people saying, it's real! These guys work 300 nights a year, just getting destroyed, and they're fine. So it was a really specific time for wrestling, but it was also my introduction to professional wrestling, so it obviously holds a very close place in my heart. I would say, for me, I'm going to put it above the Attitude Era, just because that was sort of when I went off to college and lost wrestling for a little while. I came back to it, you know, in the early aughts. I've also made some really good friends with some current professional wrestlers, so I feel like I gotta hold the flag for the now. But I'll say, you know, it's now and then the 80s for me. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Karen, and I just want to do a real quick shout out before my question. I learned from listening to Timothy and Kristen podcast the shit out of The Psychologists Are In, that you rewrote the whole movie for Lassie Come Home, specifically for Timothy, and I think that that's beautiful, and it represents why we're all here. I think it's amazing.
It was mostly because he thought he didn't have enough lines. He said, what is this shit? I can talk. Steve and I were like, oh shit.
My question is, now that Emilio Estevez has made an appearance today with the rest of the Breakfast Club, and he seems to be now into being a part of it, is there any chance he could be in the fourth movie, having a full circle of Breakfast Club?
Never say never, right? Who said that? Get out of Steve's brain. It's great to see him do that. He also did the Bratz documentary, which I was really surprised by. And it's like, wait, does this mean the door is opening? Maybe. It won't be for lack of effort on our part. If you're watching, Emilio, and I know you are, you're welcome to come do anything you want. Thanks, Danny.
Hello, I am not from Texas. My name's Elisa, and Curt, I have at least one question. I have a follow-up, but we don't know if I'm allowed to ask it apparently. So come find me later, I guess. So, the first one is I am gonna ignore the question about when our digital release of previous holiday will come and what the follow-up release from Wong will be, but eagerly waiting for the past couple years. So my real question is, I think you have an amazing comedic talent that I'm so grateful that Psych has brought about, and I have tried to find your other previous work or post work, and it's not there. And I am wondering when it will be, because you are absolutely hilarious, and I am so grateful every time I see you pop up on that Psych screen.
Like your previous or your post work?
My previous or my post work? There is none. I reserve all of my comedic acting skills for the psych shows. That's pretty much it. And you know, it's a million takes. I mean, you know, you get to do it again and again and again. Me personally, of course, it was always first take. That's just me, you know. But sometimes the other actors really aren't up to speed and they're not quite as professional as I am. But, you know, it's, I do my best. I do my best to work with the talent I'm given. Sometimes it's lesser than I'd like it to be, but I hope to continue, should there be movie 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm sure they will find ways to abuse me.
So can I ask a follow-up from
Please
Chris?
do.
Chris, when can we get all the footage in one fantastic show of all of Chris's takes?
That's a good question. We'll talk to the studio about that right away. We do have about 60 minutes of that in a music video of you just making love to the camera. Steve and I watched it for days on end.
And to be honest, they used probably the first take. It's just James just wanted me to keep doing it. This is how they abuse me primarily. I mean, you know, if I'm not being shot, mauled by a panther, or turned into a zombie, we're just gonna make you embarrass yourself in a music video. And that's kind of what happened. And you know, all I remember is Roday, because we were doing it remotely, because this was during COVID, right? So I think James was you were in Canada, were you?
Yeah, I was.
And all I kept hearing was, lick that ice cream again. Lick that ice cream again. And I don't know what it was, but you know, apparently he wasn't happy with the lick. So that took a few takes. But apart from that, it was relatively easy and painless.
It was great because you couldn't see us. Like you know, it was a weird situation. Like you were in LA, we had this little crew in LA, and then we were up shooting a movie in Canada, and so we were watching on a monitor. We shot it on a Saturday so that so we could all be watching it, and we were just like, and they, you know, they couldn't see it. And James would just be like, again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew that Curt had done some of his best licking in the 80s and 90s, and that it might take a second, you know? I just wanted to give him a chance to warm up, because I knew he had it in him, obviously. But also, like, Curt he's such a good sport. He's never once hesitated for a moment when we throw all this crazy stuff at him. He trusts us. He comes up and he dives right in, and that is a sign of an adept comedic performer, is that you can't have fear, and this man has none.
And if I could pile one more thing on the love fest of Curt, it's like he is, you know, so often you have people that you admire and you just bring them onto the show and you just hope they say the words. He is a tremendous, tremendous comedic actor. who is great with lines. He can do it in a lot of different ways. And when he talks about licking an ice cream and having to do all that, this is the peak of COVID, literally the top of COVID. And we were all quarantined up in Canada on the thing. And so we had Curt go down. Andy Berman was the person who was at the place with that. And we were at Todd's house, at Todd Harthen's house, one of our writers. So we've taken we're making a short at in college, and we take it into the highest level, and we're just watching on a little laptop screen, and take after take, he was just. There's not a bad take in there, and that is so extraordinary and so rare. And I don't actually. I'm honestly to get serious for a second. I'm shocked that you don't have more credits because you're so good, like legitimately very funny. And
I have a job, Steve.
Stop sitting around doing nothing and start acting and shit. Hi.
Hi, I'm Evie and I'm from Missouri. And I just wanted to first say thank you for making Psych. My question is for James. Were all of your Gus nicknames scripted or did you improv them on the spot?
Both. A lot of them were scripted and a lot of them weren't, and it was one of the great joys of any singular Psych episode was knowing that there would be at least one or two opportunities for us to just be really, really silly. Yeah, for sure.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm from Washington, D.C. Yeah, 202. Okay, I wasn't alive during the 80s, but similarly, I grew up watching pirated 80s movies. So I'm wondering if you guys, as the show went on, did you ever wonder if the accessibility of the references would change as younger audiences started watching it as it got more popular?
That's a great question, and I think as we've learned over the years, the answer is that the accessibility has been passed down, as opposed to necessarily hey, go find these references and figure out why they're funny. I think parents have shown their children, I think siblings have shown their younger children. I think it's become like a family affair. And I think that's why the references work. When we first started, there was no way that young people had any idea what we were talking about. So if anything, I think we've evolved to a place where, because some of those jokes are making mom and dad laugh, or older brother, older sister laugh, the astute younger viewer is like, what is that? And why is that funny? And then they go watch Real Genius and they understand, or whichever one it is. So I think we owe a lot of thanks to older viewers that have been with us from the beginning for passing it along to younger viewers. It's a kind of a beautiful thing that we didn't expect, because we expected nothing, to be honest.
Thank you. I think we're getting some sort of clock countdown, so this may be our last few minutes.
All right, we got to go into speed rounds, guys. We've got 5 minutes. Let's go.
Speed round. Deb from Indiana. So great to have you all here. Psych is amazing, and I just want to thank you for bringing joy to so many people's lives. So to follow on the family theme, my family's watching it now. I've been a Psych fan from the beginning. James, throwback to the 80s. My son wore his hair like you are right now when he was in the 80s. So my question is, we have been wondering, as we've seen the cast members go through their growth as a family on stage, how much is really written into the scripts and how much is just you guys being your fun, crazy self?
I think it evolved. I think it started off as a scripted show because we weren't quite sure exactly what it was or what it could be. And I think once we all got more comfortable starting with the writers and moving all the way up to the cast, these characters took on more qualities of the actors that were playing them. Everyone started to feel like they had more agency, that they could contribute more. And by the end, these episodes were basically producing themselves, which is, not to say that it didn't always start with the writers because they have the toughest job, but when you have an entire cast that can play their characters in their sleep and, pivot on a dime and tries things a million different ways, it makes it a lot easier. And that was the great joy of lasting as long as we did. So yeah.
I think that's right, and I think also when you see these guys come up with some bit that they started in their chairs backstage during rehearsal that made them laugh together, and then they start playing with it, and then we see it, and there's a different energy than just reading the lines that were on the script, and there's a playfulness and there's a chemistry that evolves from that, and that obviously happened so early on during Psych, and we recognized it, and to Steve's credit, I think, it's sometimes hard for writers to recognize something else that's going on that they didn't create and be okay with it. And it's like, oh, this is my show, and those are my words, and they're going off on a tangent. We were giddy about the tangents, and we could see the energy, and we could see the love and sort of that relationship. And so Steve would let it happen. Like, no, that's funnier than what was on the page. Let's go down this road.
And that cannot be overstated. That's just not the typical showrunner position, which is what makes him so special, all 7 feet of him.
Well, and also, real quick, while you're waiting, I'm not gonna do, but we call it putting it on its feet. It's like the first time you run through it on set, and you're doing the blocking and all that, and we'll see it, and we'll look at it, and we'll go, God, this feels like it's a little dull here and all that, and to have someone like James, who's an amazing writer, right there, and it's like, we just start scratching through the script, and we can rewrite it while they're putting up the lights, and then we go back, and this man has memorized every single word that we made up 90 seconds before and doesn't miss a beat. And it's to him, that's the magic of it.
Massachusetts. Chris, can you ask Curt why everybody wants to rule the world?
Wait, I was laughing. I didn't hear the second part of that.
Can you ask Curt why everybody wants to rule the world?
Curt. Quick question for you, 35 seconds left. Why is it that everybody wants to rule the world?
It's truly a wonderful question, Chris. I'm glad you brought it up. I have given it much thought. And really, I've
14 seconds.
I've come to the conclusion that I have no clue.
2, 1. Thank you very much, everybody.
Can we just have a special hand for Curt Smith?
Curt Smith.
This is a man who has appealed to the most serious sides of our psyche, and we have been able to do the silliest things with him, and we're just so grateful for all the time we get to spend and being in your orbit for even a few moments. You're truly an amazing man and a hilarious performer, and I meant everything I said that was nice. Thanks, you guys. See you all weekend.